Ladies, and now for our penultimate award of the night, the Long-Term Achievement Award. Traditionally, we ask last year's winner to pass on the baton, but sadly, Reverend Paul Nicholson's award was presented posthumously in 2020. So instead, to tell you about our 2021 winner, I'd like to welcome Helen Lewis. Helen is a staff writer at The Atlantic and a former deputy editor of The New Statesman. She's also the author of Difficult Women, A History of Feminism in 11 Fights.
It's an honour to announce this year's winner of the Long-Term Achievement Award. Fighting for change is difficult and often messy. Success can be hard to define, and it is rarely the product of one person's efforts, no matter how impressive. The toughest things to change are the systems of power themselves: patriarchy, capitalism, institutional racial bias. For that, we need thinkers and activists, people who can open our eyes to injustice, and people who can show us how change happens. Occasionally, a person comes along whose experience, analysis, and sheer fighting spirit means they can do all of that. We usually only recognise them in hindsight, but when they come along, they are a gift without equal, because they create new space to imagine a different, better way of living. Selma James is one of those people. Born in Brooklyn in 1930 to a working-class Jewish family, living on a street where white and black neighbourhoods met, Selma James lived intersectionality before it had a name. As a teenager, she joined a splinter group of the Workers' Party led by the historian and anti-colonialist CLR James. When her first marriage ended, she stayed close to him, and as McCarthyist harassment by the US government escalated, they eventually moved to the UK and married. Living in the US, UK and Trinidad, Selma saw firsthand the impact of those big three power structures. The Wages for Housework campaign, of which she was a co-founder, challenged the feminist movement to consider the toll of women's unpaid labour, both physical and emotional, and to integrate race and class into their analysis. Some of her ideas, for example that all sex is work, were greeted with outright hostility and remain controversial today. But Selma James has never courted popularity. Perhaps her deepest value to younger feminists is the very fact that she is difficult. She shook up, she berated, she challenged, and she simply would not go away. By normalising the idea that we should question the basis and value of unpaid labour, she helped move forward our shared story about life as a woman in modern society. Her ideas are still valuable in today's debates about the future of social care, universal basic income, or the 4-day week. There is simply not enough time to do justice to Selma's ideas and her single-minded determination to spread them around the world. So I will simply say, thank you, Selma, for being inspiring, frustrating, and eye-opening. This year's much-deserved Long-Term Achievement Award goes to Selma James.
Hooray! The Long-Term Achievement Award. I'm thrilled to welcome the winner, Selma James. Selma, how are you? Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a bit overwhelmed. I wasn't quite expecting, that acknowledgement, and I'm happy to get it. And I know how many people worked with me to get it. I know it was a collective enterprise, and I'm happy for that. I feel honored also by all the people who have worked for this award in a way. Thank you very much.
Well, it's so deserved, and no one has been in this for a longer term than you have. Over this long term, and in all the causes that you've championed, where have you seen the most progress?
They were all the other piece for me. I can't conceive of the liberation of women without the liberation of Black people, for example, without the right to move freely in the society, without the rights of people who have disabilities, without the strength of single mothers, without all the struggles against exploitation. And without this fight against war, so many people at this moment in time are facing bombs from the sky in Gaza or in Burma and elsewhere. So I don't separate things like that. I find that we have to find the connection between things and between situations and therefore between people in order to get anything done, because we must, as much as possible and increasingly, move together against injustice. But I certainly feel that the struggle against racism at this moment in time is very important, although the basic struggle is against poverty. And first of all, women's poverty and children's poverty. That's what we must all address, whoever we are and whatever sector we are.
A lot of people have woken up to injustice over the past year. For people who are starting to think about new causes, new ways to campaign, perhaps becoming engaged in causes for the first time, for people at the beginning of their campaigning journey, what advice would you have for them?
They should look at their own experience as children and as adults to begin to find out what other people are struggling against and to connect with them. I think that's a very good way to begin. It certainly helped me that I was a single mother at 19 or 20 years old, and that I used that experience, the experience I made, the heartache, and the people I met and the women and how they found to struggle for their own freedom and to struggle for their own financial independence, hopefully without having to take more work on, because it was such a job to have a child. You know, a baby is very demanding. And I know some women have done 2 and 3 and 4. I don't know how they manage. It's so much work. So I think if you begin with your own experience and your own, I won't say struggles, because you don't know sometimes when you're struggling against injustice that you're suffering. You react, and that reaction is precisely your struggle, or at least the beginning of it. I think that helps a great deal to find your way and to stay with reality. You know, most politicians leave reality behind when they take position. Women do.
Selma James, thank you so much for all the work that you've taken on, and huge congratulations on this award.
Thank you very much for having me. And I feel this is part of our struggle for the care income that we want. We want an income for carers, women, men, every gender. And we want that same care to be given to the environment, to the natural world, and we want all who care to get paid so they can do the caring. You can't pay for caring, but you can allow it by giving an income to the people who do it, beginning with women.
Thank you so much. Wonderful.